Hello and welcome to our third episode of the Take Back Your Life podcast. I'm here with Liz.
Hello.
So, not really much new. Oh, we do have some new news. We've actually, some new news, that sounds weird. We have actually, mostly Liz here with very little input from me, just kind of reviewing things, have launched our own personal training certification. So now you could be TBYL certified, which is essentially certified in kind of our overall methodology for health, fitness, strength training, sports, weight loss, weight gain, kind of everything, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So how long you work on it for?
I
Forever?
don't know. A while. Yeah.
So what's a brief rundown? How many pages we got and what's all that fun stuff?
It's only around 100 pages, which for training certification actually is pretty short. But I tried to really pare it down to the stuff that I wish that somebody had shown me when I first started personal training. Pare it down to the really practical, useful, what will you use every time you go train a client kind of information. There's not a ton of anatomy in there, which anatomy is important, but in personal training, never in a training session have I needed to talk about the individual muscles of a rotator cuff, or my sartorius or my, iliacus or, any of that stuff. That's, like I said, it's not that it's not important, but I've never in an individual session need to use that. But I have needed to, okay, this person's squat looks really wonky. What are we going to do with it?
Yeah. No, I in reviewing it, it seems like it kind of, because I got I got a couple certifications back in the day, and there was 70% of the stuff I wound up learning I never really wound up using. But that's not to say that the information isn't valuable, because I think having a overall body of knowledge on a topic is very advantageous. And I could see there being people who specialize in specific types of training with specific types of people might need to use some of that anatomy knowledge. But I think for your day-to-day trainer, the certification that Liz and I have come up with, like I said, mostly Liz, is going to get the majority of the trainers where they need to be in order to actually start personal training. And who knows, maybe down the road we'll move on from that and elaborate to some continued education stuff or some specialty certifications. I think we're going to start launching it with our trainers here. Mm-hmm. And depending on the feedback we get and how well it goes, we will maybe at one point make that available so anybody who wants to get trained in our way of doing things has the ability to do so.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I was just going to say, I'm pretty much planning that there will be continuing education or further volumes, I guess, would be additional information to add on to what's included in this one.
Stay tuned. We'll decide how we put it out. We haven't really talked about that at this point. I really wanted to spend a little bit more time on the questions from people, because I think that's where a lot of the fun is, and I think we can answer a lot of stuff for some folks.
Absolutely.
So what do you got?
So today I have a question from Rebecca. I think this is a really good one, actually. She says, do you have any tips or tricks on what helps people get and stay in a fitness routine and common things that get people off track? And I think that a big part of the answer to that is finding what works for you individually that you can stick with, which is not going to be necessarily the same thing that your sister or your friend or your neighbor or your coworker is doing this awesome thing that's working great for them, but it won't necessarily be what works great for you. And not because it doesn't work in general, but because you have to have something that you can, or find the application of the principles that will fit for you and that you are willing to do for a long time.
So let's, here's how I kind of quantify it. And it's based off of my personal experience and what I mean when I say get off track. And I assume what a lot of people mean, and maybe not necessarily the person asking this question, but if we're looking at that broader question of how do you stay on track? The thing that I think most people get upset about is the scale moving in the wrong direction or their clothes fitting in the wrong direction, right? So I honestly think that the overwhelming majority of people would be satisfied when it comes to staying on track if they can keep those metrics in check. So like how your clothes fit and how the scale looks, how you look in the mirror, like those are the main things. And I honestly think that the majority of that comes from developing a sustainable way of eating. And I think that that would honestly cure that question for the overwhelming majority of people. So if your way of eating every single day is a calculated one where you're designed to stay at your maintenance level, loss level, or gain level of calories, depending on what your actual goal is, that will satisfy the overwhelming majority of, I think, what people are talking about when they say that they want to stay on track. I honestly think that the gym, while very important, is usually secondary to what people are looking for when they ask that question.
Maybe. I took it as being a little bit more all-encompassing in terms of the question of both their actual fitness routine, like sticking with, like attending their workouts or going to the gym, in addition to the eating habits, I think.
So, not that I disagree with you, but what would you say the majority of people who come to the gym are actually looking to accomplish? Their
The
primary goal.
Majority of them do want to lose a bit of fat.
Or tone.
But those are people who are consistently coming to the gym.
What do you mean?
Like of the people who are coming to the gym, they're already coming to the gym.
So
they've got a handle on keeping the habit of getting their workout. There are lots of people who know that they should be working out and they know that it's good for their health and they'll feel better. And yes, most fat loss is mostly done through calorie restriction, but we look better when we work out versus when we don't.
I agree wholeheartedly. I'm not even talking about weight loss. I mean, I'm talking about, I think the majority of what people want to accomplish in general when it comes to physical fitness and health is accomplished in the gym. So they be that gain weight, lose weight, or maintain weight. Just as you get older, not deteriorating, not letting your weight, that scale starts creeping up. I think the majority of that happens in the gym. And I think the majority of people join a gym in search of finding a way to keep that in check. So in order to manage their body, they manage their body's weight, be it gain, loss, or maintain as they're getting older or if they have an immediate goal in mind. And I just think that, okay, so let me put it this way. So if I miss a week at the gym, but the scale stays the same or goes down, and I look the same in the mirror, if I miss a month in the gym, I'm okay. Like, okay, cool. Like I missed my workouts, but I'm not going the wrong direction. Then I'll be able to more easily get back on track.
I don't know.
No?
I mean, maybe. I think someone in their 20s, probably yes, thinks more that way. By the time people are in their 40s and 50s, I think they're a little bit further past, not entirely, but a little bit more like, okay, it's been a month since I've been at the gym. I don't feel strong. My stuff is feeling like stiff and I don't quite feel right. Like my energy level isn't as good. My sleep's not as good. I feel like it's gotten, by the time you're in your 40s and 50s or older, it gets a little bit more encompassing than, the scale hasn't moved yet, or my pants aren't any tighter.
Well, and then I also got to think that there might be a level of, like lifestyle bias because I'm afforded the ability to be physical in other ways than just going to the gym and working out. So I probably don't think of it the same way other people do. So like if I roll 30 or 40 rounds in a week, and I don't go to the gym and actually lift weights, I'm still probably working my body in a way that a lot of people don't have the opportunity just based on time constraints to do.
Right.
So there's probably a level of bias for me coming at this question from
imagine you drive an hour or 45 minutes or half hour, whatever. You drive a ways to go to an office job.
Yeah.
And you sit at a computer
Yeah.
all day long. and then you drive another half hour or 45 minutes, or it's the evening, so it's twice as long to get home,
stuck
or
in traffic.
you know,
That
and
makes
then you
sense.
get home and it's like, well, and then you've mentioned to me too that, I mean, especially as, I mean, I think women feel it sometimes to a certain extent of like just the need to move. But I think that pent up need to move is more aggressive for men, and they start getting snippy and short tempered
No.
and like just like
Not
ready
me.
to like,
I never feel like that.
oh no, never. Yeah.
No, that's it.
And I mean, and women, I think like, man, I just need to get up and move, but it's not, in
You're
my
right.
experience anyway, not the same aggressive, like, I gotta go like move something. Like I
think you're
gotta
right.
go lift something. Like, but that urge definitely is that, I mean, parts of your body get shortened and, other parts get weak and long, and like that shouldn't be, because you're stuck in this, at a computer for, 10 hours a day or 8 hours a day. And then you go home and sit down and eat dinner and sit and watch TV or sit on your phone or whatever. And then you go to bed, and it's like our bodies
Just
aren't.
the need to expend energy. No, it
Yeah.
makes sense. And
Yeah.
I guess I wasn't looking at it from that perspective. For me, like so much of my goals, because it sounds like I'm not trying to be braggadocious here, but just based on the fact that I get to train as much as I get to train, so much of my goals are focused around like my way of eating and how I eat, and like my daily habits in regards to nutrition.
Yeah.
That sometimes I get I look at everything through that perspective and think that for everybody, everything comes down to that one. I guess that I think you're right. I think that a lot of people just need to get in that routine of being physical in their day-to-day life.
Yeah. Well, partly too, like, because we own the gym, like, and our jobs are the gym.
Yeah.
And we've like worked a lot of those habits into our life. It's kind of like, I mean, 80% of our life revolves around activity of some kind.
Yeah.
And being at least conscientious in our eating habits. Like, sometimes we are eating a bit healthier than other times, but we're never really like going totally off the rails of just like standard American diet. And I think sometimes it's easy to forget that for a lot of people, like fitness, diet and exercise and whatever, but like the encompassing lifestyle part of it is a very small part of it. Like they'll kind of think about what they're going to eat. They spend 45 minutes or an hour at the gym 2 or 3 days a week.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the extent of it, which isn't necessarily to say that that's not good enough. I mean, for a lot of people, that they are perfectly content with that much like time and commitment to it. If, however, you're not getting to where you want to be, and that's what you're doing, then maybe you need to rethink some things or rethink some habits. But it's not the kind of encompassing lifestyle thing that it is for some people.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of for us certainly, because our hobbies are in a lot of ways pretty active, but our way of supporting our family is based around physical activity.
And I'm trying to think when we first moved back and I was selling cars, like it was harder, but I think even at that point, my life, from 25 to my late 30s had still been fitness. So like we had I made it work. Like we had our gym outside at home. So like I would still get in working out and stuff, but it was harder. I mean, I was probably 25 or 30 pounds heavier just from the lifestyle of working, 40, 50, 55 hours a week, 60 hours a week. If it was really, really busy, having to stop and like go in at the drop of a dime if someone I was working with is all of a sudden saying, hey, I'm going to be in there to go buy this car,
Yeah, it happens to be your day off. I'm like, hey, I'm in the town. I'm going to pick up my car.
So, I mean, it was harder.
Sure.
I don't know for me when the switch happened to where, like, I call them like non-negotiables, right? So I don't know when the switch happened to where fitness just became a non-negotiable. Like this is just going to be. But what I can say about that is that it wasn't immediate. and I had to force myself for a long time just to do it. But eventually, after a period of time of saying, hey, this is just how it is. This is a non-negotiable. I'm going to live a fit lifestyle as much as I can anyway. I've had my ups and downs, trust me. But somewhere along the way of just making that a non-negotiable, it became what it is now. It's just no matter what, if I can move and do something, I will be moving and doing something. And to an extent, I got to give my dad a lot of credit, because when we were growing up, we always had workout equipment at our house, and he always set the example. He was always working out and being fit and encouraging us to play sports and stuff. So I certainly know a supportive family, it definitely helps. And I mean, we probably know from experience with each other, because I'm sure we've gotten into it a couple times about being supportive of the other person in regards to that kind of lifestyle. When food in the house, what kind of food's around, like, are we going to go out and do something today? Are we going to lay around the house all day? And having people there who are willing to kind of step back and say, hey, like, if this is important to the person that I'm living with, then I need to do what I can to make it happen, because that we're all big family and we need to support each other.
Yeah. There definitely have been times too, especially when the what that healthiest path looks like, we don't always fully agree on, and so there's a little bit of headbutting sometimes in terms of that. But overall, we kind of come to
Understanding.
a fair agreement on most of the overall thing. So
Well, and it's also differences in what we respond to, because I respond really well to like elimination, like the hard line, like discipline way of eating. So like if I need to simplify everything as much as possible, if I'm really gonna like buckle down and eat clean and have like a goal in mind of fat loss, which for me it's just a constant like that's kind of my constant battle is trying to get lean and stay lean. So not everyone's goals are the same, but for me I just want to strip everything away and make it simple. Here's what I eat, and have that be as few things as possible. And I can buckle down and do that for several months. And I think you and I are different in that regard. Like, you probably are much better at moderation than I am. I have to go to the extreme elimination in order to accomplish things.
Yeah. And in fact, the extreme elimination makes me kind of crazy, because then it's like the thing that I'm not supposed to eat. Like, I've been obsessed with like wanting a sweet potato. Like, so it's like steak and fruit. Okay. I mean, all right, I'll go for a while. And I love fruit. Like, I mean, I could eat fruit all day long and be happy. But when you tell me, well, no vegetables though, I'm like, well, I just want Brussels sprouts and sweet potato. Like,
I think this time though, like we've been better. Not like we're picking and choosing our areas to like deviate from the diet. But we're always kind of getting back on, which is good, which is probably much more sustainable than like being so rigid that we're fighting about whether or not we want to go do this or go do that. And I think that I mean, ultimately for me, it's not a matter of just the steak and fruit because there's some kind of magical recipe. It's just because it's easy to follow. It's like, okay, cool. I will have steak or I will have fruit. And there's nothing else. So there's no, can I have this? Let me read these ingredients. There's no counting calories. I hate counting calories. It's the most necessary thing you need to do, but I hate it. Like, I don't like thinking about it. I just want to be like, okay, cool. I know that only eating steak and fruit, it's going to be hard for me to eat in a caloric surplus because steak is very satiating. It's very filling. And I mean, you said something one time, and it's completely unscientific, but you said like no one ever got fat eating fruit or no one ever got fat eating steak. The likelihood of me eating in a caloric surplus long enough for me to gain any kind of weight on that when I'm only eating steak and fruit is very, very small. In fact, I've lost 8 pounds in 2 weeks doing that.
Partly because your daily caloric maintenance is so high.
Yeah.
Mine is such that I can pretty easily eat my daily maintenance calories in 2 steaks a day and a bunch of fruit. And it's like the volume of food is there or is not there. I mean, steak is dense, but it's like I'll eat 400 or 500 calories in steak and a bunch of fruit, and I'm like okay for a little while, but like 2 hours later, my stomach is like empty and grumbling, and like just the volume isn't there for me, which is my biggest complaint about it, I guess.
So for this question, any last thoughts? Like it's a hard answer. I don't really have the answer. I just know that in order to develop the habit, you've got to force yourself to do it for a period of time until it becomes a non-negotiable to you, both like physically, mentally, to where you can feel when you're off, and you recognize that the thing that's missing is that habit you developed of exercise, health, and fitness.
So we ventured far afield of where I thought we would end up heading with answering this question. I guess in my mind, I was thinking like I would end up, we'd talk about like actual practical application kind of things, I guess. So yes, absolutely. To a certain extent, you have to just kind of force yourself. It's what takes 3 weeks to build a habit.
I think that's BS, by the way. I think it takes longer.
I guess I would say maybe depends on how hard the habit is. If it's an easy, simple habit, maybe you're like 2 weeks in and you're like, oh, this is easy, got it done. If it's something that's a lot more of a struggle for you, then yeah, maybe it takes a lot longer. But choosing 1 or 2 habits at a time rather than trying to completely overhaul your life all at once, because I think that's overwhelming for people. And then looking for the opportunities and reasons to do what you are trying to do instead of the excuses not to do it. So maybe you normally work out at 7 a.m., 3 mornings a week or something. You have a doctor's appointment and they could only fit you in at 7:45 on Wednesday. And that's normally a day you go to class or something. Oh, well, I can't go that day because I have to be at the doctor's office. Well, no, stop. And either you could go Tuesday or Thursday morning, or you could go Wednesday in the evening after work. And maybe that's not your preference, but for just this one time, you're going to go in the evening instead of the morning, because something unavoidable came up. But finding those reasons to make it work instead of looking for the outs of like, oh, well, I can't go today. Oh, darn, but then also, I kind of guess goes along with the forcing yourself part, is that the motivation, people think they're going to get struck by motivation and then they'll act. Really, you have to start acting, and the discipline and the action then bring the motivation, because you get some return on your investment of time and effort, and that part is motivating. And then we get excited, like, hey, I'm feeling good. I'm sleeping better. All right, I'm going to keep going. Like, oh, the pants, the waist of my pants are a little looser. Like, oh, awesome. Okay, I'm going to keep going, and looking for the little successes to reignite your motivation, I guess, rather than expecting the motivation to hit and then acting on it.
Well, like the whole fitness journey is short-term sacrifice and suffering for long-term gain. I mean, that's really what the entire thing's only about, that, right? Like, not doing what you want to do now for the payoff down the road, which is why it's so hard for people, because everyone wants, and especially like in today's society, right? Everyone wants instant gratification. So for me, like,
Amazon 1-day delivery.
Yeah. And thinking about, this summer when I'm at the pool and I got to take my shirt off, I need to accomplish what I want to look like then by how I'm acting now. So kind of keeping that long-term goal in mind. Getting up at 5:15 in the morning is something I do several times a week, right? So I don't give myself that out. If I wind up going to bed at 12:30 or 1 o'clock at night, I still force myself to get up at 5:15 and go take care of what I have to go take care of, because it's a non-negotiable. If I give myself that out, then I'm going to start using that out over and over and over again. So the consequence of how I set my day up the day before is I'm now going to be tired that next day unless I can find a way to get a nap in, or but the hitting the snooze alarm or justifying staying in bed and not actually waking up is a non-negotiable. So on our 8 sleep, it shows what time our alarm goes off compared to what time we get up, and it gives you a score like over X amount of minutes or under X amount of minutes. Mine's always under 1 minute. So from the time my alarm goes off, I am on my feet out of bed, usually within a few seconds, because I don't give myself the option to say no. It's a non-negotiable. You just have to do it. Talking with one of my friends about jujitsu, and a lot of people, most people that start jujitsu don't, they inevitably wind up quitting at some point. I mean, I guess that's the same with most things. Most people that start something difficult inevitably wind up walking away from it. And we talked about how, like, I think the longest I've taken off is like 7 days, maybe 10 days when I hurt my back. Because even when we moved to Enumclaw, I was still training. Just, it was much less than I was before we moved to Enumclaw when I was living up in Edmonds, but it was still once or twice a week. I think 7 to 10 days. And since I started probably 10 years ago, 12 years ago now, I think 7 to 10 days is about the longest I've taken off in that period of time. And my life's been hectic and busy a lot during that time. And one of my buddies said it perfectly. He goes, hey, no matter what anybody tells you, you always find a way to make time for the things that you love. So you got to do it until you love it. And then no matter what, you will find a way to make time for it, even if that means that you're suffering in order to do so.
Yeah. Yes. I would say that hopefully you're taking it as seriously enough that you're building it into your life that you don't have to always suffer for it. But, because I do my plan your, in fact, I didn't do it this morning. I got to do my plan your week Sunday post. Planning ahead enough that that's the exception as opposed to the rule.
Wouldn't you say that, like, almost anything that's worth doing, especially in regards to like reaching your goals when it comes to fitness, is there's a level of pain and suffering, right? Like if you're really working out hard enough to make progress, you should be sore the next day. Like if you're not sore after leg day, then you got to question whether or not you did. How so? Like, hold on, we're gonna stop and restart. All right, so I was saying before we had to restart that if you're not sore after leg day, you got to question whether or not you did leg day hard enough. You should always be sore after a hard workout.
No.
I disagree.
I don't think so. The more experienced you get in training, the longer you train and the more advanced you are, the less often you're going to be sore.
So what's the definition of hypertrophy?
Building size.
Okay.
Muscle
so
size.
What's the mechanics behind building size? You have to break a muscle down in order to build a muscle up.
Yes.
Okay. Breaking a muscle down is painful.
In breaking it down a lot, yes.
If you're doing what you should be doing, which is coming within a couple reps of failure, that's how you gain the most size, right? You have to get up to that threshold, right? Say maybe keep a rep or two in the chamber. But if you're actually doing that, I don't see how you're not sore the next day. Especially if you're doing several working sets, say 5, 6, 8 working sets, each coming within a rep or two of failure.
You will probably be at least a little bit sore.
That's what I'm saying.
However, not everyone is trying to build size. Not everyone's working on hypertrophy.
Okay, so building strength, I guess,
then,
would also be pretty similar.
No, not necessarily. You are. There's many possible avenues of like improving your performance. And not all of them will necessarily make you very sore as you're recovering from it.
Okay, so maybe I generalized. So I'll walk back what I said and say, for the majority of people's goals, if you're working hard enough to achieve that goal, you should be sore the following day. I mean, unless so mobility. Maybe you're not sore if you're simply working your mobility. Yoga, maybe you're not sore if you're practicing yoga. But what I think most people are looking to accomplish some sort of, and again, most people, not all people, of transformation, right? Even I've been training for a long time. I'm still currently trying to transform my body to achieve a specific goal that I have in mind, which is what I think is true of the majority of people who are going to be working out. And I think in order to achieve that transformation, generally you're going to be working towards, most people are going to be working towards hypertrophy. They're going to be looking to increase their muscle size.
If you're sore after every workout, your recovery is insufficient.
Only if I'm working, well, that's why you have different muscle groups you target on different days. Or, I mean, you could do it however. You could do upper body, lower body. You could do front, you could do back, you could do bro split. But because you have to allow adequate days for those muscles to recover in order to hit them hard again.
Yes. However, there is a lot of
periodization, right? Is that the word?
Well, there's a lot of evidence to suggest that hitting muscle groups more often, but without as many. So instead of doing
just lower your volume and hit them twice a week instead of
one time a week, just obliterating it.
I agree.
You're better off doing it 2 or 3 times a week with less volume, and you're not going to be necessarily sore from all of those workouts, but you still are, your body's adapting to more work, to more getting stronger.
So with periodization, you have to go through different phases of that periodization. You may be more or less sore depending on the phase of the periodization you're in, but I still stand by, and maybe we're just going to have to agree to disagree. I'm not talking about like obliterating either. If you I did chest 3 days ago. Right now, sitting here, my chest isn't sore. But if I actually get in there and really try to feel the muscle feels sore from my chest workout still. So I'm not talking about oh my God, my chest is so destroyed. But I definitely know that 2 days ago, I hit my chest hard and I got within a couple reps of failure for my entire chest workout. And because of that, it's sore. And I've been doing chest for as long as I've been working out. If I do a hard leg day, sitting down and standing up, I might not walk around with legs sore all the time, but I could definitely tell that I work those muscles.
You often do muscle groups once a week. I mean, that's just how you tend to.
But I haven't always worked out like that.
I realize that.
I've done all the DC training, and I've done the West Side barbell style. If you name a routine, I've done it.
There will be no probably agreement on this one.
Fair enough.
There are oftentimes, if I am consistently strength training 3 or 4 days a week, I'm getting stronger. All of my lifts are improving. I'm not sore every workout by any means, but everything is getting better. There's
other reasons besides.
I realize that, but you're still talking about getting stronger, getting strong. If the numbers are going up, you're getting stronger.
Okay. So I agree. If you're working in a specific plane of motion that your body and your central nervous system is getting more accustomed to working in, you might realize some strength gains that aren't based on your muscle size or even the output from your actual muscles, but more from everything else kind of falling in line and you getting better at that, right? So beginner gains are primarily due to people just becoming more accustomed to.
Not necessarily talking about beginner gains.
No, what I'm saying is I'm using that as an example. So a lot of what people realize when they have these big jumps when they start working out is simply understanding how their body functions in a specific plane of motion and becoming more efficient or better at that.
I realize that, but usually it's beginners who are very sore after the workouts. And then as you adapt your just range of motion, your alignment, all of that stuff is getting better, but you're also getting stronger. But the more adapted you get, the less often you're going to be sore or should be sore. But Like I said, this is one of those things that we disagree on, and there won't probably be a satisfactory answer from either one of us to convince the other.
Perfect. I don't know if we answered the question or not.
I feel like we did not, to be honest. But
I mean, it's and one of the reasons Liz is a much better trainer than I am is because my methodology is just buckle down and do it. And I realize that doesn't work for everybody. And it's probably me being just short and a lack of patience for things that make it to where that's how I approach it. And even when I was a trainer, like if someone's complaining, I'm like, just get in here and do it. Like, you know what I mean? But being a realist, I certainly understand that that's not the way that is going to work for everybody, and which is why you do what you do and I do what I do.
It's true, pretty much. Cool.
So, and Liz often doesn't have patience for my just do it, just grit your teeth and do it. That being said, there is something to that, and kind of being able to withstand the initial like jumping in feet first that you're going to have to do in order to make something become part of your life permanently.
Yeah. But I still think, pick one or two things that are things that you want to be a long-term like pillar of your health and fitness. Work on those for a while. Make those as non-negotiable as brushing your teeth or going to work. And then pretty soon, there will be days you still have to kind of fight it, but you won't have to decide every day whether you're going to do it. That's just what you're doing. And then add on one or two more things, and then add on one or two more things. And just once you've made something a habit, don't let it go. Not using the excuse of time or whatever, like you just find a way and make it happen.
We could push this a little bit longer. Do you have one more you want to touch on real quick, since I had to restart anyway?
This is going to be a really long episode if we do that.
Pick a shorter question.
I don't have any shorter ones. They're all really good. Let me see. Very thoughtful questions.
How about this one?
Can
I read it?
That's a big question, though.